Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where last episode we were marveling about the frankly absurd power level of nuclear engines in this game. Now, I'm wondering if this is going to cook these tanks off when we launch this through heating. It might. If it does, we can ditch these, and we can probably do that anyway, to be honest. What would this thrust to weight be? It's still 0.61. That did not update. Okay, now it's 0.82 over Tylo. So that's pretty decent, really. But I want to find out if this will cook these off. So let's launch this monstrosity. And actually, I'm just going to reload this because I think that undoing it probably just undid all of our struts. I'm going to relaunch it, reload it, so we've made absolutely no changes whatsoever to this. Perfect. And let's launch this guy. I'm still very concerned about this situation here. And let's head over to Moho for this lander, because if we go into this stage here, we can see that over Moho, we'll have a 1.78 thrust to weight with this setup. So this will be fine for landing on Moho. We don't need a lander stage. Let's launch this. I'm still a little concerned about our separation. You might say I've got some separation anxiety going on here. I will always be concerned. 100% of the time, I will always be concerned about these SRBs separating. This is a very tall craft, of course, but it's less tall than it was, to be honest. Let's put this into... Yeah, this is fine. And let's just lift this off. All we've got in here is Jeb. We don't need more Kerbals than Jeb, do we? Let's take it back to the VAB and let's bring more Kerbals. We can. So that should be fine. Let's just bring in a couple of extra Kerbals just in case. I think we only need the one, because I'm pretty sure we just have to land there. I'm not sure we even need a Kerbal for it, to be honest. But I have a couple of concerns with this craft right now, and that's, as usual, the SRB detachment. I'm also concerned that we end up losing these tanks, and with them, our teeny tiny landing legs and our lights. We'll see what ends up happening with that one. I want to check solar panels. Yep, solar panels seem fine. Okay, so let's make sure that our Kerbals are in here. And we can bring, I guess, Bill... And we can bring Valentina, and we can even bring Tim C. Kerman. Sure, that'll work. Okay, so we can bring 4 Kerbals along here. And this will actually be a decent-ish setup for our Eve landing and return, although we're going to need a different technology other than nuclear for that, for sure. But let's lift this off and see what happens. Well, bad frame rates, for one. Okay, I mean, that's not surprising. We've got a fairly low thrust to weight here, and it's actually... This should be... I suspect that this is about the same amount of weight with these 4 tanks as our lander was. It's probably similar. So let's take this off and see what happens with the SRBs. And let's just accelerate this up to 4x. We'll have more of a slideshow, but we will get through this stage faster. And I generally feel like that's probably worthwhile. But it's definitely a slideshow. No doubt about that. So upward we go here, and that is fine. So we can see we're at about 90 meters per second here. Meters per second. About 90 tons of fuel left in these SRBs here. And that's fine. We're going to be ditching the SRBs relatively soon. But not for a while yet. We're currently at about 4 kilometer apoapsis. But yeah, my concerns currently on this rocket are twofold. We have a way to get our people home. That's good. And we, in theory, have a way to land on Moho. I say in theory. We definitely have a way to land on Moho. Landing on Tylo is going to be potentially a different story because thrust to weight is a bit of a problem. We may end up ditching some of the, like, space here and adding additional engines. We'll see. Actually, additional engines would do the trick to land on Tylo. They're very long engines, though, so we need to do something about our landing legs, for sure, as I think about that. That would definitely be a thing that we would have to work on, but it's a doable thing. No doubt about it, that is super doable. We can also lower this down and get ourselves a space. Yeah, that seems viable. Okay, so let's put ourselves into lock here. Let's move over to orbital mode, and let's put ourselves into prograde. Yes, we are on 4x, and we probably shouldn't be for this turn. So I'm going to take us back down to 1x. And we're just going to park over here at prograde, and we're going to camp at prograde for the time being. We need to continue to push up through the atmosphere. I am noticing this situation here. There's definitely a heat gauge on our docking port. The docking port is not technically mission critical. The docking port is kind of insurance. So that's fine. I mean, in theory, we should have a nose cone on there, but we're just powering through the atmosphere instead. Okay, so let's just continue to push up here. We've got about 7 tons of fuel left in our SRBs. We're about 30 kilometers up. We're still traveling almost entirely vertically. So we should be seeing that heat gauge going down pretty soon here. SRBs are off. Moment of truth. I'm letting us settle a bit. And do we have a clean detach? No. We just lost an engine. Okay, so that was the concern, for sure. We're going to lack attitude control at this point, and we're just always going to constantly drift off over here because of that. We could shut down this engine to compensate. And theoretically, this is still fine. Are we still pulling fuel from these tanks? We should be. We absolutely should be, in theory. Although, the fuel is going to be a little weird, I think, from here. So we're going to need to hop into our resource manager. And we're going to be looking at our methalox. So this is a center tank here. So what we want to do is we want to pull the fuel out of specifically this tank. Yeah, so fuel is going to be pulling unevenly. But that's maybe okay for right now. We're at about 200 kilometer apoapsis. So I want to pull us over to the horizon and be getting pure horizontal speed. We're plenty high for pure horizontal speed. We don't need all of this vertical speed that we're getting right now. So let's just bring this guy right on over to the horizon here. This is technically recoverable because we only lost the one engine. Okay. Let's park ourselves around here, and we'll continue to burn until 250, and then I'm going to look to balance out our existing fuel. That is going to probably be a little fiddly, but we're definitely going to want to do that. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to empty these tanks into these outer tanks, and then I'm going to want to manually decouple these tanks, and we'll work on just this. Is the overall idea for right now. So we're just going to sit here and continue to burn for a little bit. This is definitely recoverable, but it's not pretty. That's generally always going to be the case with those SRBs. We need stronger SRBs is what we really need there. But that's fine. We are pulling fuel out of these tanks with our center tank. But I'm expecting our fuel to be in kind of an awkward position right now. So, let's see here. Yes, we've got this guy, we've got this guy, we've got this guy, and we've got this guy. Then we need on the other side. So these out over here, right? So that is... not appearing in this. Okay, let's turn these engines off. I'm going to reactivate this and see if that makes this appear. Because we've got these 4 here, but we've also got these 4 fuel tanks, right? And where are they? Well, I want to move these out for right now. So all of these need to come in here. Are you... Yes. 2, 3, and 4. So basically, we're going to be keeping all of our center tanks here. And going like this. And I'm just going to tell all of these to equalize. Okay. I'm not convinced that that actually equalized, but I want to deactivate this engine. And now I'm going to go in here. We're going to head to the apoapsis. We're going to create a maneuver plan, and we're going to just circularize this. That'll be a fair amount of burn, no doubt about that. But it'll be something along the lines of this. Should do reasonably well. Well, aligned to that burn, we should probably extend solar panels, which apparently we can't do via this button. I don't know why. But we're going to extend these right on out, and we're going to extend these right on out. Excellent. Okay, now back into the resource manager here. We're going to fire up this burn eventually, and we're going to want to keep this fuel fairly even, right? So that'll be fine. We are still aligning for the burn. Our turning is on the slow side, but that's okay. And we're just going to be burning with 5 engines here. So definitely a little bit of an awkward ascent, but it's fine. So Fear 1 bore out. That is absolutely going to be true. It must be doing this by ton. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we've got going on. That's okay. I want to just make sure that this is kept as equal as possible. So we're still turning here very, very slowly. We've got about 3 minutes to get there, and that should be plenty of time to get this turning done. We've got our fuel set up correctly. We could just gimbal our way there. We are turning reasonably slowly, but we are turning. Okay. It's 985 dV. I'm going to call this close enough. We're going to warp in, and then we'll continue our turn from this, like, 30-second marker. So that'll be fine. We'll just wait here until this burn is ready to go. Then we're going to light up our engines, and we're going to ensure that all of these fuel tanks are as even as possible. That's the overall idea here. We're going to ditch these. It would be more efficient to have this layered in such a way where we would drain, like, 2 at a time. So we would drain these 2, then we would drain like these 2, then we would drain these 2, then we would have this. That would technically be more efficient, but this is a simpler design for sure. So we've got about 10 seconds until this burn, and we're not lined up yet, but gimbaling will definitely get us there. It's absolutely okay. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, our 5 engines are lit, and we're gimbaling over to the prograde marker. Sounds excellent. And we want to ensure that these are as even as possible. Okay, so it's going to be 985 meters per second, and we can see that the fuel drain is definitely not even. So we want to make sure that this is being kept even here. Looks good. Once we get down below 1.3 tons of methane, this should be relatively fine. Okay, yep, we're good now. So we just want to make sure that these are remaining even, right? That is absolutely fine. We're going to run out of fuel of them fairly soon, but we're just going to keep evening these out. Keep evening them. There we go. We've still got a little bit more DV to burn here. Absolutely. Evening them again, because we ran out of fuel in some of them. Okay. Evening them one last time. We are officially out of fuel on them. That's fine. Shutting down this engine. Freezing physics. Now we're going to ditch those tanks. And we're out of here. Okay, so that looks pretty solid for now. We are, of course, able to get into orbit with no problem here. We're technically in orbit now, so that looks wonderful. And now we don't have to worry about the fuel anymore. Awkward fuel flow, of course, was caused by losing that engine on ascent. That's fine. So we'll continue to burn here for about another 20 seconds. And from here, it's very straightforward. We have about 3,000 DV in here. So that's going to work as our interplanetary transfer stage. And this is good enough. It's absolutely good enough. So from here, I would like to burn sometime around our periapsis here. And we'll just boost our apoapsis on up. And that is going to take us off towards Moho. Right? Is that taking us the wrong way? That is taking us the wrong way. We're going to burn at the apoapsis, not at the periapsis. Fine. So we're going to burn about here. And that should be taking us over towards Moho. Yes. Obviously, if we were to burn like this, we're going to impact Kerbal. We don't really want to impact Kerbal. And we don't really want to be that close anyway. So I want to bring us out to somewhere around here or so, like the Eve orbit approximately. That'll be good. So that'll be about 1 kilometer per second, and we'll get this guy turned. How slow is this turn going to be? We still have a lot of mass here, but we have shed a decent amount of mass. It's definitely a little bit slow. We've got 31 minutes to do the turn. We've got plenty of electric charge, so I'm not concerned about that at all. But this is definitely a little on the slow side. I will be back once we are approximately aligned. Okay, so here we are, very nearly lined up for this burn. As you can see, we're not quite there, but we're making pretty good progress. Once the turn got started, it was pretty quick. As you can see, we've still got 30 minutes here, so that really wasn't too bad. So let's get this done. Once we get this burn completed, we'll of course shave off a good amount of weight down here, and that will be glorious. So let's get ourselves into position here. I'm still a little bit concerned about losing these, and if we lose them, what does that do to our landing? Well, we probably don't want to land on it at that point. It's going to be very tippy. So if we lose them, that's probably considered an abort stage. We'll see. Let's warp forward a little bit here. We're very close, and we can gimbal the rest of the way. We're about 40 seconds away, so I'm going to warp forward a little further. 30 seconds, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1... mark. Excellent. So let's get ourselves pushed on out of the Kerbal system. This is going to be about 1/3 of the center core Delta V here. This is a very powerful rocket, no doubt about it. Imagine how much more powerful it would have been if we had kept that extra engine. That would have definitely been useful. But alas, we did not. Honestly, that detachment is always going to be tremendously spicy. Losing one engine is not the end of the world. Losing 2 engines, especially if they were right next to each other, would be potentially problematic. That would definitely be an issue. But as far as the landing goes, we're going to have to re-evaluate this, I think, a little bit for the Tylo landing, mainly because our thrust to weight is going to be a little bit of a problem. I'm thinking about simply making there be a nuclear engine on all of these, and that should do the trick for Tylo. It'll be a little bit heavier, but that should do it. Of course, then we're going to need some sort of a strut for our landing legs to go on, but for now, we can definitely land on Moho, and that is our goal for the moment. Assuming that we don't burn off these tanks. So let's just get ourselves out of here, and that's all fine. What I'm going to do is, after we're finished with this burn, I'm going to save and run a quick simulation to find out if we will lose these tanks from running our nuclear engine or not, but we'll revert back to the save either way, because I want to maintain the fuel from this stage, but I also want to know if these stages are going to blow up, and we kind of need to know that before we go too much further here. So that'll be fine. As soon as we're completed with this burn, that's going to be the goal. So we are in escape velocity right now. Okay, keeping an eye on our periapsis around Kerbal. About 15 seconds of burn time left. That looks good. We've got a good amount of this burned off. But I do want to run that simulation, and the sooner we know that, the better. So I'm going to do that basically right now as soon as we're done with this burn. We'll make a save and run a test. We're reverting back either way to the save position. So I just want to know whether this will burn off. So, quick save. Game saved. Let's stage this. So we stage it. That throws away a bunch of DV there that we don't want to throw away, which is why we saved. And now let's burn. And I'm going to burn a lot. So we burnt out all of the fuel there. Okay. Out of curiosity, are we on a collision course with Kerbal right now? That did basically nothing. Okay. That DV did basically nothing to our orbit. That's wild. Maybe we flipped it around. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What we learned is that these tanks are not going to overheat and burn off. So we're reverting back as we said. So we're going to load up quick save 23 here. Should be the correct one. And that gives us back all of that fuel. So now what we need... Never leaving Eve. Yeah, that sounds right. I've done it before. It wasn't pretty. Leaving Eve is tough. No doubt about that. Okay, we can get rid of this burn in theory. Yes. This should be exactly where we were, and it is. Okay, so that looks all fantastic. Next, what I want to do is I want to warp to us escaping Kerbin, which will be right about here. Beautiful. And while we're doing that, let's set Moho as our target. And once we escape, we'll get to see what our ascending and descending node is. It's going to be 7 degrees. Sure. So right up over here, we'll create a maneuver plan. Other way. Cool. And we'll just change our inclination to about, not quite there, to about here or so. There we go. That's pretty much right on the correct inclination. We'll align for that burn. That's going to be another 1,000 meters per second. So as far as our Hohmann transfer goes, we're only going to have about 700 meters per second, like 750 meters per second left in this stage. That's fine. I'm not too concerned about that. Like, look at how much DV we have in this thing. 22,574. This is deeply unconcerning. Okay, so turning is, of course, going to take a little while here, but it's definitely getting faster and faster with every burn as we lose a lot of the weight here. Remember that oxidizer is incredibly heavy, and that's the majority of the weight of our rocket, and of almost any rocket that uses oxidizer anyway. We get lucky because our nuclear engines only require hydrogen. They do not require any sort of oxidizer to have their nuclear reaction that gives them thrust. So that's what makes them so hyper efficient. And the fact that we can just land on the nuclear engine is insane. I love it. It's so good. Well, we're about halfway through this turn here. The turn is definitely getting a lot more tolerable. Yeah, it's not too bad. So that looks good. Oh, and we should probably make sure that we're not pulling fuel from these center stages here. We do have the fuel lines going in. I wonder if it's not connected here. I don't know. That might be the problem. It looks like it's not fully connected, but it should be connected. I don't know. We can definitely keep an eye on that and make sure that we're draining from these tanks before we're draining from these two. So that'll be okay. We're basically aligned for our inclination change right now, and let's just warp on forward to that. That'll be in about 30 days. We're out of communications range at this point, so that seems okay. 20 minutes? Okay, yeah, let's keep warping. Absolutely. Now we're about 40 seconds away. That is much, much better. So I'm going to warp forward at 10x, 20 seconds, 10, and 3, 2, 1, mark. We're slightly off here, but we'll just gimbal our way on over. No problem. Cool. So this is going to be about a 1 minute burn here, and I don't really care about the actual maneuver here, so I'm going to get rid of that. We're just using it for timing. And now we're just going to burn anti-normal here, and we're just going to burn here until our descending node is at about 0. I'm accelerating our burn a little bit here. So we're at about 3 degrees, 2 degrees, 1 degree, taking it out of time warp. Half a degree to go. That'll do. Okay, perfect. Let's see if we can find ourselves an encounter up over here. I think the odds are pretty unlikely, but let's see what we've got. Yeah, that's not great timing. Let's move this guy right on around. This is much better timing, actually. That's not bad. What does that give us for our encounter? Okay, I'd like to dial that in a little bit. So where is our maneuver node at? It's around here somewhere. There it is. So I want to bring this up a little bit over here. I want to bring it in a little bit retrograde. This is very polar at this moment. We're going to be landing up over here. So polar orbit is not necessarily the worst thing. So we could have this be 88 kilometers. That's not too bad, really. But what if we were coming in on this side? 37 kilometers, and we should probably dial that in a little bit. So let's raise that up and bring it a little bit retrograde out over this way. And just have it pass over about like this. I would like to dial that in a little bit. Other way. 14 kilometers is a little on the low side. Maybe not quite there, but around 40 kilometers? That's not too bad. Yeah, something about like that. Now that's going to be a fair amount of DV. We can burn not quite half of it with this stage, but that's okay. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to be in position and take this burn. We've got some turning to do between now and then. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.